Hello there, it's Adam Forbes. I am the host of the Corporate Escapology podcast and the author of Corporate Escapology, the book, which is still available on Amazon. And today, my guest is Karen Matiazzo. She is a designer of Brazilian heritage. She lives in Manchester now in the United Kingdom, but she gained all her qualifications in Brazil before moving over to the UK, a bit like an escapology move herself, and has found built a career as a freelancer after having worked for several companies along the way. And I think it's a really interesting story for us to hear today about not only the different platforms and relationships she's built through clients, different kinds of structures that she's been able to commercialize her skills through, but also how she's created different revenue streams now using her talent. Yes, she's a designer. Yes, she's got this sort of creative portfolio that she can demonstrate to others. But what it showed to me is that many of us working in corporate jobs could potentially productize our offer differently to create different revenue streams. So let's meet Karen now. Right, great to meet you, Karen. Thanks so much for being on the Corporate Escapology podcast today.
Thank you.
Great to have you with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Cool. Well, let's kick off with the beginning.
I actually graduated in fashion design.
Fashion, okay.
Yeah, it's ironic because now I'm working with textiles and I never have in ages. But I graduated in fashion design in São Paulo, in Brazil, back where I'm from. And I absolutely loved doing everything related to fashion design. I love the courses, classes, and everything. I think when I was close to finishing it, I think I was so exhausted, and I thought anything that comes with fashion design, it's kind of tricky to break into the industry if you don't have family in the field already. And I really liked anything related to tailoring and to outerwear and suits and stuff like that. That's what I wanted to work with. So not only working with fashion design is already difficult if you don't have anyone in the field, but tailoring is something so tricky, and you need to go to long lengths of learning how to do the trade. And but I wanted to do that anyway. That's why I hopped into fashion design. But I think I was so exhausted by the end of the course that I didn't really chase graphic design. Funny enough, I met a friend of my folks, my parents. She went to my house and met me and my sister, and she just visited around and saw my room, and I had, when I was 22, a long time ago, I just had loads of things glued on the walls, like posters and maps and folders and flyers and stuff like that were very curious for me to collect. And she was like, I know someone that does this for a living, you know? So I just got connected to her friend, Ligia, and I did an internship there for 1 year.
So it was family connections in the end, just in a different field from
it ended up being, because she knew that I was looking for work. And even though it wasn't related to fashion, I was like, yes, let's do it. I was super excited to know what it was. Today, I think, like, if only I explored all the ranges of design, because there are many, I would have studied graphic design, to be fair. I don't regret studying fashion, but I would have studied graphic. That had more to do, and like 4 years of deep knowledge about graphic design. I would have loved doing that as well.
Is it because you thought there was more of a career path there through graphic design than there really was with the fashion?
Maybe it was so long ago. Maybe it's something along those lines. Yeah,
more versatile at least.
Yeah.
I guess graphic design wouldn't stop you going into fashion, but actually fashion
True.
stops you potentially from doing other things
Yes.
in
Yes. Because
design.
if you study fashion, like that's all you are like kind of constrained, if
Yes,
you
yeah.
will. But then again, the only way for you to graduate in Brazil is you need to do a 3-month internship in a place
Really?
related to your field.
Right.
Like it's government based, and the
Wow.
faculty, the university needs to approve or whatever. So
Hmm.
that's the only way that I worked with fashion. And funny enough, it was printing. It
Right.
was
Yeah.
pattern printing,
Yeah.
like in the back of their offices and their store. Really, it wasn't an office; it was a store.
Mm,
They had like a huge machines to print on transparent fabric,
mm,
and that's what I had to do for 3 months,
mm.
and worked with that, and watching runway shows and such. And then I hopped into graphic design with that internship.
Yeah. Okay. And so, what
Yeah.
sort of things did you do there? And were you thinking at the time this
Ooh.
is going to be a job?
I think I when I started it, I liked it so much that I thought, yeah, let's do this instead
Mm,
of doing fashion design. I used to do loads of stuff, like from graphic to digital.
mhm.
And I had this great coworker that taught me everything I needed to know then, and I know now, and I
Mm,
evolved, obviously. She was so great, and she taught me like a code with HTML and CSS.
uh-huh.
Back then it was such an old language as
Yeah.
well, like TDs and TRs, and Google wasn't involved. It was a long time ago. But yeah, that's why I'm interested in HTML and CSS today. That's why I build my portfolio based on templates. But I was curious enough to dig into it,
Yeah.
and that's what I used to do there. With
Well, yeah, I mean, it strikes me graphic design is a lot more technical. I mean, I know fashion is quite technical too, but the technologies you're using for graphic design, do you
yeah,
require a different mind from just a kind of creative person to be able to actually
yeah,
turn those creations into, or those ideas into real things, or even intangible things
exactly.
like
Yeah,
digital?
I think fashion design is more related to manual work,
Mm,
and because we used to do modeling, sewing.
mm,
We obviously had a lot of research, and we did have a class on patterns and prints,
mhm,
techniques and stuff, and software like
mhm. Okay.
Corel Draw back
Uh-huh.
then, and Photoshop. We still we still
Yeah.
I still live 24/7 on it. But yeah, I think graphic design is more like computer based.
Mm, mm. And that
And
appealed at the time to you.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it probably felt quite sort of a bit sort of future facing as well,
yeah,
all that digital growth
exactly.
with websites and everything kind of
Yeah.
emerging at that time.
Yeah.
So after the internship, what did you do next? Did you end up getting a job in that graphic design field?
Yeah, yeah, that's what I followed too, because I never looked back to fashion again.
Mm,
Like just started doing graphic and digital all the time. I went on to work at agencies and studios.
mhm,
I liked studios better because they were tight knit and smaller,
mm.
and I would continue to do loads of things instead of just focusing on one single
Okay.
area, if you will. Like
Yeah.
this is something that I see that is very different here in the UK. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but maybe I think they focus on like if you do website banners related to construction companies, for instance. That's what they chase, and they want someone special that is
Mm. Yeah,
that has
specialized in
special,
that.
yeah, that
Yeah.
specialty in that, yeah.
Yeah.
But I used to do loads of stuff, like for
Yeah.
not only for companies in different industries and fields, but like you saw in my portfolio, different medias.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not only like static images for banners, but retouching images for campaigns for hotels.com, for instance, or creating key visuals, that what we used to call it, key visuals, for interns to replicate that style of identity
Yeah.
into website banners, for instance, but also backdrops, all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff.
I do find that interesting because that's my observation as well. Having engaged lots of agencies, they're incredibly specialized, and so you'd
Yeah,
have somebody that was just front end design and knew nothing about,
yeah,
in
yeah,
the middle. You'd have somebody that knew about digital or online, but yet they did nothing to do with print. It's
mhm,
really, really, anything large scale, very different from small scale product, totally
yeah,
different. So, but in the fields you were in, or maybe it was because you were in, a different market from the UK, you
yeah,
were able to do a lot more variety of design. And so
yeah.
did that appeal to you, or did you find you were pushed out of your comfort zone a bit?
I actually liked being
Yeah.
pushed out of my comfort zone because if I graduated in fashion, I needed to hop onto loads of things to catch up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned everything in the field with coworkers, with art
Yeah.
directors next to me, and I would grab someone and say, "Hey, this is how I want to do it. Will this work? I don't know." One of the reasons why I didn't stay long in places because as soon as I found out that I learned everything I could, I would be like, okay, I still like it here. It pays good. I love the people working here, sitting next to me by the desk. But if I don't have any prospects to evolve, I'm gonna, try to stay 3 more months just to see how things feel. But if it still feels like I want to quit, I
Yeah.
will, because I would rather look for something more exciting over there, you know?
Yeah. And I do feel, I mean, firstly, it's a creative industry. So maybe that's sort of inevitable in a way. There's a lot more freelancers working in those industries
Yeah,
than there are people who are just staying in one company for 20
yeah,
years, say, just doing
yeah.
the same things. Partly because the agency needs that freshness and different ideas and perspectives coming
Mhm.
in. Partly it's maybe because, as you say, the individual hasn't gone into a creative career to do the same thing on repeat.
Yeah,
They're drawn to new ideas and
yeah.
challenge, and maybe, as you say, some of the different people are, pulling you forward, aren't they? And if you stay in the same team, you get a bit stale
Exactly,
together.
yeah. It doesn't mean that the person doesn't like is kind of sick of teaching you stuff. It's just that the flow of projects that comes, unless
Yeah,
the studio is very savvy in getting different clients. Uh,
yeah.
like this particular studio that I worked at, I love them to bits until today, and I'm still in touch with people working there. That it was the last studio before I came here to live in England, and
Mhm,
they used to get loads of creative projects.
mhm.
So one of the reasons why I got the projects, the work that I got at this corporation here in England was because I did merch design for Red Stripe and Corona.
Oh,
They
yeah.
wanted a range of illustrations printed on products for
Uh-huh.
them to in case of Red Stripe, it was for the marketing account manager to I think that was his title, at least. He wanted to show to the team how amazing the Red Stripe brand identity was in Brazil for social media and stuff.
Mhm.
And we developed that into a range for them to sell at airports
Okay.
to yeah to push people
Mhm.
to not only consume Red Stripe, obviously, but to advocate for Jamaica.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, and because it's a lifestyle, right? And
Mhm.
similar to Corona had a surf championship called WSL. I don't know if you know, and in Rio, and
Mhm.
they wanted a range,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much the two projects that I got at Monstro, the studio before coming here.
Uh-huh.
That got me into
You
working at this huge corporation south of Manchester here
yeah.
that pretty much, oh, okay, you do exactly what I see here in your portfolio is what
Yeah.
we do.
Well, that was also interesting for me, just as a contrast, I guess, to myself, but also most of the people I've spoken to on this podcast is
Mm-hmm.
you have very, very tangible, a very tangible portfolio to walk away with, don't you? Everywhere you go, you can show people what you've done
Yeah.
in a way that's very difficult for somebody, I don't know, who works in HR or finance or
Mm,
marketing, even to a degree.
yeah.
You have things to point to, and so not only are you always walking away with that, so it's
Yeah.
easier for you to move jobs
Yeah.
potentially because you have
Mm-hmm.
very specific to point to,
Yeah.
but also I think I think that in a way that's kind of giving you confidence to be able to always project forward because you're not having to explain something that others won't understand because it's here. You know, if you like
Yeah.
it, it's here. I can
It's
do that
very
again for you.
visual.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
take that risk away for a recruiter or a client or um, yeah, a partner or anything because you can say, okay, well, I can do this sort of stuff for you. And I think
Exactly.
otherwise, many people who are in jobs, they can get a bit stuck because they wonder, how will I be able to sell what I've done
Yeah.
to the next employer or
Yeah.
to a client
Yeah.
because it's all a bit intangible. But here you have something really specific, which
Exactly.
I think is, yeah, I mean, a big advantage in some ways.
Yeah. I think it's a very different when it's a creative field
Mm,
because like you said, you just show the portfolio shows
yeah,
what softwares I know, how can I
yeah,
develop that idea instead, because like in the creative field you can have 10 different designers that will choose to
yeah.
approach a project in way different ways.
Uh-huh.
But I think like people you mentioned like HR or marketing or account manager, or they need to prove the results, right?
Mm. So you've mentioned coming to the UK. So what was the driver there? And yeah, and also that story around the de-risking you did by having a job to come to, because that in a way is a good proxy of how others that may be in similar fields might be thinking about leaving their own job to do something different.
Yeah. Well, that was really tricky. I actually, maybe I was naive to leave Brazil without a specific work to start as soon as I got here. Especially before Brexit, that was things were easier. I
Mm.
could have just applied, and I didn't.
Oh,
I
you
didn't.
didn't have a job
I
lined up.
no,
Oh, I thought you had.
no, I didn't. It was very. It was a crazy move. And I just wanted to do freelance, and I just thought if I don't go now, I won't. And I had some friends coming over as well, and
Okay.
we really needed to get here before Brexit, so it was kind of a rushed thing.
Ah.
But I was already in how can I say, like enrolled, if you will,
Mm.
in freelance platforms like Fiverr
Oh, you
mostly. That
were.
was my
Okay.
main thing.
Ah, okay.
And I was already in talks with people um, asking me for work, which they call gigs, right? Like
Yeah.
I was doing gigs here, gigs there, and I also had this Brazilian woman living in Hawaii that was ordering websites for me to lay out and develop and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I thought, this is it.
You weren't coming with nothing. You actually had some
Yeah,
clients, and you had the platform that you could rely on for some
yeah,
work, but
yeah,
you needed more of a kind of anchor here
yeah,
to hold you here. I guess um, probably from a visa perspective as well. You needed work in the
yeah,
UK, but you had some income generation through
yeah.
the existing
Yeah,
work.
a little by little, I did, and at the time it was good money enough to come over, but nothing steady.
No,
That was the naive part of it,
yeah.
because then a little later they stopped handing me websites to lay out and stuff like that, and I obviously got other work, and Fiverr was a good connection, not only for small gigs here and there, but also to for people to find me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
like,
tell us about Fiverr, because again, I'm not sure many corporate people will necessarily know it unless they've worked with a lot of creative agencies.
yeah.
And yeah, so why did you go for it? What is it? Why did you go for it? And what kind of work were you offering there?
Well, Fiverr is an online platform that you can upload your gigs, well, your projects. So, like, I can do your website for you. I can design your logo, blah, blah, blah. So, they have sections in like basic, standard, and premium services that you can, and all they do is like click a button and upload a briefing for you
Yeah.
based on questions that you already set up, very specific to the field that the gig you're offering, obviously.
Mhm.
But you can offer all sorts, like not only creative, but you can offer translation, you can offer SEO, you can offer
Mhm.
data analysis and stuff like that. So there's
Mhm.
the whole, it's not only creative. So I uploaded some gigs in there, and what I already did at agencies and studios, and I adapted to how will the user will recognize what I can offer.
Yeah, I see.
And I was offering like illustrations and websites again, and branding. It takes a while to catch up. It takes a while to like fly off, if you will.
Mm.
But that was after this website thing dropped off.
Mm.
I eventually found this woman, this American woman, which today is a dear friend. She found me there, and she started asking for branding and then websites, and then, so her own brand started building up so well. And I was like responsive. I was very
Mm.
careful to take care of her brand because it was from scratch, and I wanted to watch it take off. So she was a constant thing
Mm.
pre-pandemic. Yeah.
Right. And and so Fiverr, the word Fiverr came initially because these gigs were like a fiver, like $5.
I didn't know
Now,
that. Okay.
yeah, and now it's not like that. I mean, you can get some things very, very cheap, but I mean, I
Yeah,
guess you're
yeah,
paying for
yeah.
quality. But two things: one is, I think, a perception that it is really cheap, and actually it isn't. You can pay
Mhm,
thousands for
mhm.
something. I've done the same for video design and things like that, which are more involved, and the gigs
Yeah,
there are higher cost, of course.
yeah.
But the second thing is what you just said, that it is a place to find people, not
Mhm,
necessarily Fiverr. I know this, but I think it's called People Per Hour or something like that. That's
yeah,
one of those websites where again you think, oh, it's
mhm,
just somebody I can get very cheap. But I've known
yeah,
people who've gained clients through there. So clients are looking at it's de-risks it for them. They get a chance to do a project with you.
yeah,
It works or it doesn't work. If it works, then it may go on to more work, and
yeah.
that's clearly what's worked for you.
Yeah, I was lucky actually because we actually hopped off the platform eventually because she
Yeah,
ordered like one or two gigs from there, and she found me after, like,
yeah,
because the platform won't allow you obviously
yeah,
on the chat box to give her phone number or email.
yeah,
But she found me, so we got it out of there. But
yeah.
it's Fiverr is not well seen in platform through other designers because, like you said, it's very cheap. So
Mm,
it's not, it devalues the
mm,
work that I do. For instance, I do branding, visual identities that are very complex.
mm.
It's not just one little logo for 30
Logo, yeah.
quid, you know? It's
Mm,
like, it's way bigger than that because
mm.
of the results that it needs to reach.
Yeah.
So,
Well, let's talk a bit more because I think you now use other platforms, don't you, which maybe
yeah.
have filtered out some of the lower quality design work and allow you to present yourself in a more
Yeah.
quality way. But let's just go back to the Manchester coming to Manchester, which must be an experience from Brazil. But so what did you do then? Did you manage to get a client to work for, or was it even an employee in a job when you were over in the UK?
Yeah, eventually I was looking for work obviously after these two freelance work uh ended.
Yeah.
And I before the pandemic I found a job from a new fast food chain thing.
Mhm.
and I used to do freelance I used to do everything, like branding and animation for television,
Oh,
for
wow.
the burgers to flip around and stuff, and animated 2D things around them,
Yeah.
and packaging and all sorts of things.
Wow.
That lasted for around 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic came, and I could have worked remote, but they didn't allow that. So I
Mm.
eventually left. And after that was really tricky because, pandemic, quarantine,
Mm.
it was chaotic. So I was chasing again,
Yeah,
and
you didn't have a network, I guess, certainly not in Manchester to rely
exactly,
on to pull you through
yeah.
that period.
So I had a very silent period that was
Mm.
really tough. I was living with someone, and we were, working things out. And
Mhm.
he knew someone, an old friend that was a graphic designer, still is, and he was working at this company. And he was like, Karen does this and is similar to you, and she can help if you're looking, blah, blah, blah. There's a role open for her.
Mm.
And I got my CV, sent him my CV, and was nudging a bit, but not enough to piss him off. But I was like, come on, Russell, please. I'm looking for something here. And it took him 1 year
Oh
to
God.
actually be able to approach my then manager to say like, hey, she's a friend I know, and she does this. And that's where the red stripe and corona came along, to connect with what they were chasing, because they
Yeah.
were doing exactly that, merge collections,
Mhm.
printed on surfaces.
Mhm.
And I got an interview, and I think 1 or 2 months later, I was working with them remote initially. So,
Okay.
oof,
And how long
relief.
did that last? How long did that last
Two and
working?
a half years.
Yeah, wow. So it really took
Yeah,
you through that awful kind of period because there was multiple
yeah,
lockdowns that I guess too, and the remote bit made that all work
yeah,
well. That's so interesting. So it's also interesting that it was something very specific that you've done before that they could
yeah.
say pattern match almost. Okay, she's done this, therefore she can do
Crazy.
this to us.
Yeah, yeah,
So interesting because you don't always know or are able to show what you've done that is what
yeah,
they're looking for because the client or the employer isn't always that explicit about what they're looking for. But
yeah.
when they can see something, just like you
Mm-hmm.
said earlier,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I want some of that. So you stayed there for a couple of years. Why did you leave? Why did you leave there? And what were you looking for, I suppose, there at that time?
I explored a lot of illustration styles doing merch design, and that was so cool because it was something so new
Mm.
to me. Even though back then I did Red Stripe and Corona, I didn't explore so much.
Mm.
So the fact that they saw something on my portfolio that I could develop, I was like, okay, let's crack on. Let's explore this style of illustration, this. And I started researching and getting inspiration, and doing it in my own way, my own ideas, translated into those designs. And it was kicking off. It was really cool to see uh, the people receiving the collections that I was doing, and going like, this is really cool. And that, boosted, the ego here. Like, I was exploring, like, I didn't even know that I could print on a blanket in such a way, and exploring this type of surface, or this
Mm.
is how I need to adapt from this size to this size.
Yeah.
It was a good phase for me to explore the illustrations and the collections, and how
Yeah.
that, and it led me to what I do today.
Yeah, and I was going to say maybe it it also showed you where you excel as well and where you don't, maybe too, in that kind of
Yeah,
environment where a lot of it is down to other people to kind of give you the briefs and stuff. Whereas
yeah,
maybe you'd start thinking because I obviously know what comes next. And it makes me think maybe it made you decide what you wanted, not
Yeah.
just to be taking from other people, but actually I want to be in more of the leadership role.
Exactly, yeah, because like the freelance side of it, you need to get the briefing yourself. So
Yeah.
I was really organized in putting up a document and to get all of these answers. And if the client didn't want to answer, or if they would bail, it was a good thing, because I
Mm,
would know instantly that they didn't know what they wanted,
yeah.
and that was not the
Beautiful.
kind of client that I wanted.
Yeah.
So
Really.
yeah, that's like you gotta, when you're a freelancer, you gotta streamline a lot of things.
Mm,
That's what I'm doing now with new projects that I'm on. Like
mm,
I'm speeding things up just to be able to send a PDF and get answers back, so I can
yeah.
crack on with the part that I actually like doing, which is designing.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Okay, and so what happened next then? So you actually went and built your own business and you did some more freelancing, but you've
Yeah.
also created a whole new business out of this. So tell us
Yeah.
more of that.
Which is so exciting, but also very overwhelming, because I do everything on my own, obviously. It's a one-woman band, and yeah, it can get tricky. I'm involved in loads of things, like from printing my own products so people see how they look, and I get to see their reaction when they're shopping with me,
Mm,
both online and on markets that I go. And I
mhm,
really, really wanted to see the reaction to my patterns live, if you
mm,
will, because that's a technique. I don't want to do it for a long time. It's just a
mhm,
way of measuring reactions.
mm.
But it's really cool to see the reactions of people, and people investing in something that I produced, not
Yeah.
only digitally, designing collections on Photoshop, but also um, the part that I need to chase the manufacturers myself. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I never thought that I would be involved in this, but it's very exciting.
So
To
what are the products that you're making?
I print on paper and fabric, so from art prints and postcards to fabric, like scarves and tea towels and bandanas.
Mm,
It's something that I want to evolve more into playing cards and stuff like that. So
okay.
I'm gonna focus on graphic, which is paper,
Yeah.
and the fashion side, which is
Interesting.
the textile. So I'm merging everything that I've done through all my life.
Yeah. And how does that feel coming back to the
Full
fashion?
circle almost. Yeah, it's really fun. Like I said, to see people's reactions, but also to be able to show the style of design that I want to offer to other brands, because it's not, I don't want to only have the online shop. I want to be able to offer the designs for people to print on their own
Yeah.
surfaces.
I mean,
So
that's really why I want to talk to you,
yeah.
particularly because, well, there's two things. One is that sort of freelancing route there, but the second thing is the multiple streams of revenue
Yeah.
that that are coming your way, selling a
Hmm.
product, but also selling. I know how to do this for
Hmm.
you, so you can come to me and do it.
Yeah.
And I think you're still carrying on with the freelancing too, aren't you? So there's a sort of multiple
Yeah.
ways of making money out of the skills that you've developed
Yeah.
over multiple years.
I think that's important, because if you're a freelancer, you're shooting everywhere. Like you're aiming at so many, and see what sticks.
Yeah.
See what you like, see what sticks, see what works, what is a lot of effort that you don't fancy doing.
Mm,
And now I am like locking in and doing this online shop thing, but also to offer for other brands to license my work and my
yeah,
collections,
interesting. Okay.
and also to be commissioned if they have their own ideas. Like
Yes.
they might have a theme that they want
Mm,
that I don't have on my portfolio to be licensed. But also, like, next year I'm going to Top Drawer. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
oh
It's
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's a trade
Big
show,
event.
a
Yeah.
huge one in London, and
Mhm.
it's in January. So
Oh, it's
super
big.
nervous about it,
Mm,
yeah. But I'm going to. It's like almost like a showroom, right?
yeah,
You just display your products there for people to stock their shops, and
yeah.
that's I really want that. I really want people to see my products at shelves all around the
Mm.
UK. That would be amazing.
And I just think super entrepreneurial. You're just, I mean, you're guided by
Yeah,
how your customer wants to buy from you, and
yeah,
you're putting different offers out there and just sort of
yeah,
testing which are the ones that are going to work, whether that's at
yeah.
the kind of pattern level, whether it's the
Mm-hmm.
product level, whether it's the kind of relationship they want
Yeah,
with you as well. Is it just
mhm,
purely transactional? I'll just buy some products from you, and and I'll
exactly.
pay more than it's cost you, so you make some money that way, or
Yeah,
whether it's licensing
yeah.
revenues too, or whether I come to you and I pay you for a service to come up with some unique designs for me that
Mhm.
I can then use for whatever I do in my
Exactly.
business. And I just
Mhm.
think that your open-mindedness to these different ways of making money and
Mhm.
using your talents, I
Yeah.
think is like super inspiring for people that are
Thank
sitting
you.
there. Maybe it's a creative job. Maybe it's actually something
Yeah. Mhm.
more kind of like functional, really, in
Yeah.
business. But are there
Yeah.
ways that they could use that knowledge and experience they've got, package it up differently, that
Mhm.
might mean clients pay different amounts of money, different premiums for things, but also give
Exactly.
you that um, that kind of stable income versus
Mhm.
the ups and downs, which may be
Mhm.
more money, but actually don't come around quite so often.
Yeah, because freelance life can be ups and downs a lot.
Mm,
Like you can have a huge job that pays all your bills for 3 days of work, but sometimes it's a very quiet.
yeah.
So you gotta have that kind of thought process. And like you said, I really hope that inspires people that do something that is not creative, um, to, like you said, package it in another way,
Mm,
to offer in another, like the basic, the standard, the premium service, or like see a necessity here and see how you can solve it. That's maybe it's my design mind speaking, but design is meant for you to solve a problem, right?
mm. Great. I just want to finally touch on this, these platforms a bit too. And you're not, I don't, are you using Fiverr still or not? No,
I do,
you
but
use that for
I
freelance.
kind of let go of that right now. It's kind of quiet.
Yeah.
And I have Malt.uk that this French girl suggested me.
Right.
It's an online friend,
Uh-huh.
and we talk on Insta, and she gets work from there. She's an
Mm,
illustrator as well. And
okay.
Brain Trust
Oh yeah.
is another one
Tell
that
us about Brain Trust.
yeah. So on my homepage, I have so many tiny logos of all the things that I'm associated with.
Mm,
Makers Market, which is in
yeah.
here in Manchester.
Uh-huh.
Loads of companies and softwares maybe that I use, and
Yeah.
online hubs. There are the dots that is really cool too. I got good connections there and good suggestions because people sometimes ask for questions, and sometimes you post a project and you get feedback.
Hmm.
So it's really cool. It's
Yeah,
not
great. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You imagine doing this 20 years ago, or even 10
yeah,
maybe. It just is
yeah,
so, and to change country like you did as well. I mean,
yeah,
it's just you're layering in all the complexity, all the frictions to just make this impossible. But
mhm,
actually, with the technology, with the platforms, with these
yeah,
networks, with the social media,
yeah,
there's so many ways that you can reach
mhm.
customers. And then, but it's interesting, isn't it, that you still go back to quite a traditional way of making money, which is I make a product
Referrals.
and I'll go to an event and try and sell it to a retailer that wants to buy many copies of.
Yeah, exactly.
So that
I
hasn't gone away.
Yeah, no, it hasn't, because you need to do the face-to-face thing. That's why the markets that I go to see their reactions, and also I think it's a way of showing people that you really mean to be serious with your brand. With my small business, it's a way
Yeah,
of like, I'm investing in this and
yeah,
I'm preparing it for 6 months, 8 months, how
yeah.
long.
That's true. I think also true linked to that is people want to buy people. They want your story. They
Yeah,
want to know
yeah,
why you've done this because that becomes
mhm,
part of the attraction for them, but also the resale
Yeah.
beyond. You know, particularly for a retailer, they want to know this
Yeah.
backstory of the original, you know, creator, the
Exactly.
maker,
They
and
need
why are they
to
doing this?
they need to hear your voice, and they need to know how here's your personality, and
Yeah,
why do you draw what you draw, if
yeah,
that's the case. Why
exactly.
do you do what you do? What's the backstory? What got you involved in that stuff
Yeah,
like
totally. Well, great. I mean, that's a great story.
that?
And I think I just hope people will see that this is not just like somebody that's got these very special skills that's able to do
Mm,
this. Actually, there's many
yeah,
ways that we can look at our knowledge and see that, take the experience that you've had about packaging it up and
yeah,
some of the things you've done to build networks, to go out
yeah,
onto these platforms to reach others, and you know, and to do the listening thing like you're doing with customers. What are they telling you? How are
yeah,
they reacting to what you're doing? That I think can inspire all of us to think differently about how we could maybe make money
yeah.
if we chose not to work in
I
a
hope
big
so.
company.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Karen. That's
Thank
great.
you, Adam. I love doing this. It's so cool.
Great.